My name is Doris, and today I am going to be showing you how I make the French fold shrug. If you're new here, please subscribe so you get notified every time I post. And if you've already subscribed and been here before, welcome back. Well, I'm going to take this as a test, and if it works, then we'll come back. As I said before, the French fold shrug by Diane Erickson is a really nice pattern, and I use it all the time. And this is cut on the fold line here, and I already cut it out of a sheet. And what I'm going to do with this one is a little different because I'm going to make it a lined vintage chenille French fold shrug, and I'm using a sheet for the lining. It helps me be able to make it more quickly, have it reversible, and also have the seams be finished off nice. And one of the things that's kind of different about this pattern, or at least it was different for me to get used to, is here's the fold line. This is the front. This is the back. These are the sides. It only has a couple of cuts in it. Whoops. Well, fix this. Cut through that there. This whole pattern consists of just a big rectangle, and it's on the fold, all right? And what it has, well, the way I use it, is this is the sleeve portion. And see, you'll have, this is one cut, this is two cut, and then this makes the sleeve. It just gets folded in half and sewn together. And then the only other cut to it is the front here. And you don't cut this piece out, right? Although I might for this and use it for trim because I am going to make it reversible. You just cut down the front like this. This is the front line. And then you leave this sewn on, and you'll notice that this is just a little offset where the shoulder fold is. You don't cut that, it just stays there, but you'll notice that's a little offset, and that's because this is the back of the neck. So these wings, I call them wings, on the side here, they're just cut up. And those, you'll see as I sew it, they kind of get wrapped around the sides or hang down, or sometimes you could, there's different things you can do with that, and I'll show you that as I'm sewing. The other thing that I do as I'm going along, I'll talk about the modifications that I often make. I like to leave the front pretty much as is lengthwise, and sometimes I add a little trim. The back on this side, depending on what I have for my material, sometimes I'll make this a little longer because I like the back to come down over my butt a little bit. I like this length the way it is, but that's one of the things that can change. And if I want the sleeve slightly longer, or I want these sides to hang down a little bit, I can lengthen it that way. But basically, if you look at the length of this, this is about 28 inches. Right? And that's the width around. Well, it's 28 times 2 because it's on the fold. So it's 56 inches all the way around. And the width of it, if I take I have this a little offset here. So if I had this over here, this is 14 from 48 is about 34 inches. So it's pretty much a rectangle. That's 34 inches by 56 inches because that is on the fold. So it's just a rectangle that size with 3 cuts, one on each side for the sleeve and one down the front, and that's it. I wanted to show you this piece again here. This is the front, and like as I said again, this piece does not get cut. This does here. So what I'm going to do with that, if I can find my little marker pen, is, let's see, need to make sure I have my right pen. Those are not. So I'll get my invisible marker. And for ease of showing this, trim that a little bit. This is on the line. Then I'll take this, fold it back like that, like that. Now, do as I say, don't do as I do, because first few times I made this, I cut this here, which you don't want to do. And so what I do is take with my invisible marker, mark this down like this. This is really pretty much the top, because this is your opening, your front opening. And then, because I can see where that is, I can move the pattern back out of the way. And then I can take and lay my ruler down like this on that, where I marked it there. Take my rotary cutter, if I'm smart enough to bring it here, and come right down like that. And then my rotary cutter, like with all of us, every now and then, sometimes it's sharp enough to cut the whole thing, sometimes it's not. So just cut this right up to where the edge of that is. Now, this I leave attached normally. And because I'm going to make this reversible and put the other side, I may end up cutting this off so that it's easier to do the reverse. Now this, one of the things that I'm going to do a little different, and like I said, for this, it's easy to tell the front from the back. This is the front and this is the back, right? Now I'm finished with my pattern. What I typically do with my pattern for this is I try to keep everything intact. I fold it over here and I hang it up. And that works for me so that, you know, normally I have them all on hangers and I have them hanging on one of my racks. But I'm fortunate I'm out in my garage that's never seen a car. So this, what's nice is now this is going to be my reverse side or my lining. What I'm going to do with this is a little different, because I am going to make this out of this beautiful vintage chenille. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to kind of lay this out, because this, let's see, I want to keep that piece intact, right? So I'm going to lay this over the top here, like it would be, like that, a little bit. And just so that I can have a vision of what it's going to be, because I'm going to take these pieces of vintage chenille into my sewing room, and I'm going to sew them together, because I didn't have a piece big enough to make, you know, this whole thing. Now what you can see is this is only one half of the front, because I have to put the other half on it. And what's beautiful about this, right, this is all the front. And this will be the other side of the front. And what I want is I want to join them like this. So it'll be like this. This will be the front, and I will cut it over there on that side, because that'll be the front. And I'll take this to my sewing machine and do this, and I'll mark it, because I'll clip that edge there. I'll probably cut that off before I get in there, so that I know that I have enough material to make my complete front. And I'll just sew it together on this side, because this is where it folds. But I won't really, because see, this is the opening. So what I'll do here is, right here is where that front will be. And so what I'll do here is I will sew it from there down, put a clip on that too. I should have been a little more prepared for this. Okay. So I will sew this together here, right? So That'll be the front, like that, right? Now, for the back, I have this beautiful piece that I want it to be the center of the back. So that'll go over here. But what I'm going to do is I will applique that on the back. And these pieces will be the back. Okay. Right there is one side, and put this the other side. This is another piece of that. Okay, so I know that by putting these two pieces together, see right there's where they'll be. So I have to put that there like that, so that I know that that is where they'll join. And here's the other piece of that. Now, the thing about this is I'm going to make it exactly like the pattern. So I know that it only needs to be this wide here. So I could cut that out here. And then I need my piece, the complementary piece for this. And what I'm going to do is this is the other piece of the back, and where is that? Yes. So what I will do is I'm going to put this over that, because I know that that's going to be the back, right? And this then will be this other side. So this one will actually put it together like that. What I'll probably do is do these pieces together and then make sure that I'm cutting at the right width. I'll take the pattern in and do that. So it's more doing the piecing and then doing this. So I know where this is going to be. I know the width of that. So I am going to do this, but I'm going to cut it once I get it in there. But I am going to cut this one over there so that I know where those pieces are, and then I can sew that. So this is the back, that's the front. And then once I get this done and I can lay it out, then I will overlay this on the other side. So I think that that is just going to be absolutely perfect. So I'm really pleased with that. I've got that. Put this in red so I don't forget where that is. I'll finish stitching this together once I get in my other room. I think we will take this and cut it over there so I have it. Now what I do have is I do have another piece here, and this is perfect because this piece that I'm going to have here, I'm pretty good at cutting. Yep, perfect, because I'm going to, this is perfect because what this will give me, I have this little bit left here, this will give me enough material to make some really cute pockets on the front. So I'm very pleased with that. So I think this is going to make a perfect French fold shrug. So that's pretty much how I do it. So this is the sheet that's going to be the lining. That's going to be the pockets. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to sew this together. Then I'll bring it back out. Make sure I have everything perfect before I finish, cutting everything, according to the pattern. And because I have to cut this, put that to that. I think what I'll do though is right now, no, I'm going to take this in. I think I will cut these because that would be just as easy for me to cut out here as it would be to take it in the house and maybe make a little mess of it. So we don't want to make a mess of it, do we? No, no mess. You can tell I'm not exactly precise with what I do, but this will be so perfect. And I I always save all my little pieces because, you know, I like to have everything work out. And I think this will be perfect. Very pleased. This is going to be just so perfect. So those I'll sew together. This then will get sewn together, but it'll have to be this way, that way, and that way. Extra piece. Put this here. This is so perfect. I am so excited. So I will come back and show you after I have all these cut together. Then I will come back out and fit it, make sure everything works all right. According to that, I'm going to have this clipped so that I'm ready to sew it together. And I don't have to worry about anything not matching this. And it'll go with that. And hopefully you can see this and my camera angle is okay. That is so beautiful. Very excited about that. Okay. Okay, so that one's there. It's there. Like that. I'll make sure that this works okay before we go and start sewing things together. That's the bottom side, top side. This one. Plenty long enough. Okay. A little extra long here. That. We are going to have to cut this a little bit more. I think we're going to take this just a little bit more. That one. Yes. Make sure this is going to fit okay. just a little bit out of my reach. Yep. Okay, so I am going to go stitch this before I stitch it to this so that I can make sure it's okay. I will come back when that is done. Alrighty then. Now, this is the piece all together. And this is more complicated than what it will be for you because I am trying to marry all these pieces together. So if you were doing it, you would have been finished, except for sewing it together, by the time you were done with the sheet. But because I'm making this a little more complicated, you know, just like I always do, everything's more complicated. What I need to do is this little portion where the neck cutout is, I have to take that in and sew it up. Then once that's sewn up, then these will go like this, like this. They will go right sides together, sewed all the way around. That way I'll have my one big piece. Then I'll bring it out here and I'll make my cuts for the arms. I already did my cut where I left it open up at the neck. So I still need to do that little bit and then I will be finished. But I'll bring you back and show you that when I'm done. Okay, we're gonna switch cutting tables. This is what I had shown you earlier that I had cut in the garage. I don't have this laying quite right there, but I wanted to show you this. That was the first cut, that's the front. And then this is the sleeve. And one thing to note about this, and I already cut these, this is the sleeve piece. And down here you'll see it says side seam, and this says flared side. I like the flared side because it's more hip forgiving. So what you do is you fold it back on that dotted line, and then you cut along here, and that's the sleeve. And I cut that side too. That's a flared side. So hopefully you can see that. And it's cut now, and that's the sleeve. And I'm going to fold this back, and then I'll show you, before I sew it, how it gets sewn. And that's pretty much all the sewing you do, is sewing that sleeve together. And then with this one, I'm not going to finish the seams or the edges because I'm going to make it with a sleeve, and then it's going to be the reversible lining on my my chenille. Okay. And I'll show you that. And this is my little striped French fold shrug. This is wrong side out, and I'll show you here. Here I've clipped the sleeves, and then see it's open down here on the bottom, and these are those side pieces. Now if you read the pattern, there's a lot of things that people do with these. I like them, I just finish the edges off. I like them like this. Sometimes I bring it up and around in the front, and you'll have to lay it flat to do that, and I make this into a pocket. But I really like just putting something unusual for pockets on the front here. But because this is going to be the reverse side of that chenille French fold shrug, then I just put it on here so I can show you what this is like. Okay, so there's what the front looks like, and it's really nice because it makes it kind of unisize. It'll fit really nice anywhere from a medium, and it fits me really nice and kind of generously, and I'm a small 2X. So here you can see the other side. That's pinned, and then you got to be careful when you sew it shut right there because this, like I said, stays open. Some people just wrap those and stitch them up, but I like them hanging down. And let me get it around here. Now, the only piece of waste in this is where we cut the front opening. And what I do with that is I usually flip it over like this. And then I finish it off here, and I finish the front, the neckline around the front and down with bias binding. I like it finished that way. And then this is on the inside. So if I'm making it reversible, I like to flip that on the inside, and I usually snip it off about here, right? And finish the edges, and then I put my label on the back. Sometimes I take this and I go ahead and I flip it over and roll it under so it kind of finishes and gives a little strength up here to the neck. And that's the only place where I find it really needs a little reinforcement, and that's why I use bias binding. And if I snip this off, what I'll do sometimes is put a zigzag stitch along the edges for that piece, and then I'll gather it like down the center and roll that up and make a little flower pin. You can put it on the front. So there's really no waste to it. And then these sleeves, you finish the edges. But because I am making this a reversible one, and this will be the inside on the vintage chenille French fold shrug. I'll show you a picture when I'm finished. I think that's going to be really pretty, and it's kind of holiday colors, and it makes it soft so you're not against that chenille rubbing on the inside. But when you turn it and you wear this to the outside, the chenille is kind of warm and fuzzy, and you'll have that next to you. So I like it, and you can see from this, how those sides come down. Now, a lot of times what I'll do, another change I'll make is I would suggest that you're making this pattern, make it right according to the pattern the first time. You can use a sheet to start out with. It makes a nice little shrug at bedtime. So you can make a wearable toile, they call it. But sometimes what I'll do is I'll make it longer in the back. You can see how it can come down shorter. So it's a little longer than shrug length. And I like it like this in front, so you're not sitting on something and it comes around and closes in the front. But I also like, sometimes I'll put a ruffle along the front, add a couple 3 inches, and use a different material, maybe some red material. Or if you want, you can just make this about 3 inches longer in the front and 3 inches longer in the back. But remember, when you make it longer like that, it also makes these side pieces come down longer. I do like the length of these, so sometimes I'll do a shorter ruffle and just do it to make it a little longer in the front. So you can use a lot of creativity with this pattern. So I think it's really versatile. You can do a lot of trims with it. You can put ruffles on it. You can put lace on it. Pockets. I always like to put pockets. And I think if you put pockets right here in the front, it's kind of nice because you can kind of hold it closed by putting your hands in the pockets. Sometimes I'll put little ties on the front to tie it shut. A lot of people like to have their jackets closed. So there's just no end to the creativity that you can do with that. I've sold a lot of them in my store. So if you go to my Etsy shop and you say to look at sold items, or you in there, you can see the ones that I've sold. And I usually have several of them in my store at one time. I like making them out of cantha blankets because those automatically have that reverse side inside. And I'm going to be making quite a few more out of my vintage chenille because I have to piece those together. And it's pretty easy to I would say I'm going to make some patchwork ones too, because you can put together a big rectangle of patchwork. And once you get the colors and the layout you like, you can sew all of that together. Or what you can do is sew it on the back side of your cutout sheet and then put that all together and make a really cute French fold shrug. And you could put bias binding around to finish all the seams on that if you wanted to do it that way. I think I'll make one like that, and maybe I'll film that when I make it. Why don't you let me know about that? Let me know if you want to see the makings of how I make a patchwork one. Anyway, I'm going to finish putting this together, and then I will show you the finished product. Remembering that all you have to do is just sew those sleeves, and then you could put bias binding around this to finish all the edges, and you'd be done. So it can make a really pretty quick make. And you can upcycle fabric, you can use a sheet, you can do a lot of things with it, wear it a lot of different ways. Hope you enjoy.